Most people kill container plants not because they have a black thumb, but because they're growing the wrong plants. You water them, you feed them, you move them in and out of the sun, and somehow they still look worse every week. Then summer hits, you go on holiday for 2 weeks, and you come back to a graveyard of crispy stems and dead leaves. Here's the truth nobody tells you. The problem isn't you. The problem is that annual flowers and fussy tropicals are designed to demand attention. The moment you stop, they stop. But there's a whole category of plants that work in the complete opposite way. Perennials. Plants that come back year after year, handle drought, bounce back from neglect, and actually seem to prefer being left alone in a pot. In this video, I'm giving you 10 of the best, and I'm not talking about the same lavender and sedum list you've seen 100 times. These are the real underrated workhorses that container gardeners quietly swear by. By the end of this video, you'll have a concrete list of 10 perennials that are genuinely low effort in pots, plants that survive dry spells, handle temperature swings, come back stronger each spring, and still look good enough to make your neighbors ask questions. Let's get into it. Plant 1. Agapanthus, African lily. If you want a plant that looks expensive, thrives on neglect, and absolutely loves being root-bound in a pot, Agapanthus is your answer. Most plants sulk when their roots run out of room. Agapanthus performs better for it. The tighter the roots, the more dramatic the flower display. We're talking tall, architectural stems topped with globe-shaped clusters of blue or white flowers that bloom for weeks in summer. Water it well when it's actively growing, then almost forget about it. It's drought-tolerant once established, handles poor soil, and comes back reliably year after year. In colder climates, just move the pot into a sheltered spot for winter. No digging, no drama. One thing to note, it takes a season or two to settle in, but after that, it runs itself. Plant 2. Heuchera, coral bells. Most people think of Heuchera as a shade plant and forget about it. That's a mistake, because Heuchera is one of the most rewarding perennials you can grow in a container. Full stop. The foliage is the feature here. Depending on the variety, you're looking at leaves in deep burgundy, burnt caramel, lime green, silver, or a mix of all of them. And because it holds that color through most of the year, including winter, you get 12 months of visual interest without doing anything special. It thrives in partial shade where most pot plants would struggle. It's compact, so it doesn't take over your space, and it genuinely does not need much water once the roots settle in. Just give it well-draining compost and a pot with drainage holes, and it largely takes care of itself. It also produces delicate wand-like flower spikes in late spring, a nice bonus on top of the foliage. Plant 3. Kniphofia, red hot poker. This one surprises people. Red hot poker looks like something that needs constant attention. It's tall, dramatic, almost tropical in appearance, but it's actually one of the toughest perennials in existence. The flower spikes are extraordinary. They rise up like torches, moving from deep red at the top to orange to yellow at the base, hence the name. Hummingbirds and pollinators go absolutely wild for them. In a pot, Kniphofia does well in a large container with gritty, free-draining compost. It hates sitting in wet soil, so don't overwater. In fact, the drier side suits it just fine. Once established, it comes back every year and slowly multiplies, meaning one plant eventually becomes a clump of plants, all in the same pot. Cut the old flower spikes down when they're done, and that's basically all the maintenance it needs. Plant 4. Liriope, lily turf. Liriope quietly is one of the most underrated container plants around. It looks like a grass, behaves like a grass, but it's actually a perennial that flowers, tolerates drought, handles drought spells, and stays evergreen through winter. You get dark green or variegated strap-like leaves that never really look bad, even in the depths of January. Then in late summer, it sends up spikes of small purple or white flowers that look like grape hyacinths. After flowering, it produces shiny black berries that add another layer of interest. It's the kind of plant you put in a pot in a shady corner, completely ignore, and it holds that space together season after season. It's virtually indestructible. Whether your pot gets baked in afternoon sun or sits in the shadow of a wall, Liriope handles it. Divide it every few years to keep it tidy, and that's the sum total of work involved. Plant 5. Salvia nemorosa. This is not the culinary sage you cook with. Salvia nemorosa is a compact ornamental perennial that blooms its head off from late spring into autumn and reblooms if you cut it back after the first flush. The flower spikes are densely packed with rich violet blue or deep rose blooms. It's a magnet for bees, and because it's native to dry meadows across Central Europe, it is built for drought and neglect. In a pot, it stays compact, rarely getting above 50 centimeters, which is ideal if you're working with a smaller balcony or patio space. It needs full sun and good drainage, and beyond that, it asks almost nothing of you. Cut it back by about a third after the first flowering wave, give it a light water, and watch it push out a second flush a few weeks later. That's the full maintenance schedule. Plant 6. Gaillardia, blanket flower. Gaillardia looks like someone designed a flower specifically to get attention. The blooms are bold, two-toned wheels of red and yellow, sometimes burgundy, sometimes orange, always striking, and the plant just keeps producing them from early summer right through to the first frost. What makes it ideal for pots is its almost stubborn resistance to difficult conditions. It's native to the prairies of North America, which tells you everything. It thrives on heat, handles dry spells without flinching, and doesn't demand rich soil. In fact, too much fertilizer makes it produce more leaves and less flowers. Deadhead spent blooms regularly to keep the display going and cut it back in autumn. It comes back in spring, ready to repeat the whole show. It's short-lived as perennials go, usually 3 to 4 years, but it often self-seeds into the same pot, effectively replacing itself. Plant 7. Delosperma, ice plant. If you've ever seen a plant completely covered in flowers, petals so dense you can barely see the leaves beneath, that's Delosperma in full swing. The blooms are daisy-like and come in vivid shades of magenta, orange, yellow, and pink. They open in the sun and close at night, which is a genuinely fascinating thing to observe over time. The foliage is succulent, which means it stores water in its leaves and handles dry conditions extremely well. In a pot, it's best in a shallow, wide container with very gritty compost and full sun. It spreads naturally to fill the space it's given without becoming invasive. It's also evergreen in mild climates, meaning you get green, succulent foliage through winter and an explosion of color from spring onwards. Almost no watering once established, no feeding needed, just sun and good drainage. Plant 8. Penstemon. Penstemon is one of those plants that experienced gardeners always recommend and beginners always overlook. That needs to change. The tubular flowers come in shades ranging from deep burgundy and cherry red to soft pink and white, and the plant produces them over an incredibly long season, sometimes from late spring all the way through to early winter in mild years. In a pot, Penstemon does well in a medium-sized container with good drainage and at least a half day of sun. It's drought-tolerant once established, and unlike many perennials, it stays semi-evergreen, giving you green structure through winter, when most pots look bare. The only real task is cutting it back in spring once you see new growth emerging from the base. Don't cut it back in autumn. The old stems actually help protect the crown from frost. That's it. One annual trim, and it rewards you with months of color. Plant 9. Epimedium, barrenwort. This one belongs on every list of underrated perennials and consistently gets left off. Epimedium is extraordinary precisely because it does what almost no other plant can do. It thrives in dry shade. If you have a shaded balcony, a north-facing wall, or a spot under a tree, this is the plant. It produces heart-shaped leaves, often with attractive bronze or red markings when young, and small, intricate flowers in spring in shades of yellow, white, pink, or purple. Once established, it handles drought remarkably well because the foliage itself forms a canopy that locks moisture into the soil. It's also semi-evergreen or fully evergreen, depending on the variety, which means your pot never looks empty. Cut old foliage down to the ground in late winter, just before the new growth and flowers emerge. New leaves and blooms appear within weeks. Then you leave it alone for another year. For a shady container spot, there is genuinely nothing better. Plant 10. Sempervivum. No list of genuinely low-maintenance container perennials would be complete without Sempervivum, and yet most people treat it as a novelty rather than a serious garden plant. The name means always alive in Latin, and that's not hyperbole. Sempervivums survive drought, frost, heat, neglect, and poor soil in ways that seem almost impossible. They've been found alive after months without water. They grow in rock crevices with almost no soil at all. The plants form tight rosettes in a stunning range of colors, from bright green to deep burgundy to silver, and they gradually multiply by producing smaller rosettes, the chicks, around the parent plant. Over time, a single pot of Sempervivums becomes a dense, living mosaic. Each rosette flowers once, then dies, but the surrounding chicks fill the gap instantly. In a shallow terracotta pot with very gritty compost, this arrangement sustains itself indefinitely. No watering schedule, no feeding, no winter protection. Just leave it. So there you have it, 10 perennials that genuinely belong in pots, genuinely tolerate neglect, and genuinely come back year after year without asking much in return. The key to making any of these work is simple: get the drainage right. Almost every perennial on this list fails in containers for one reason: sitting in waterlogged compost. Use a pot with drainage holes, add some grit to your compost mix, and you've solved 90% of the problems before they start. Start with 1 or 2 from this list. Give them a season. You'll be amazed at how little they need and how much they give back. If you found this helpful, go ahead and subscribe. We put out content like this every week for people who want a beautiful outdoor space without turning it into a second job. And drop a comment below telling me which plant surprised you most. I read every single one. See you in the next one.